Welcome, everyone. My name is Dina, and we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope, you can use the comments to say hi and let us know where you're joining us from. Let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear from you, and we're excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us. One note is that this broadcast is live and public, as are your comments. We love hearing from you and may display your questions and comments during the broadcast, so send them in. Hi, Patricia Simon. Welcome. And before we get started, I have a question for you. What is your superpower? Let us know in the comments, in the chat. What is your superpower? And let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear from you as you are joining us. Welcome again to those who've just joined in. And we will get started shortly. Hi, Kim. Thank you for joining us. And let us know, what is your superpower? We want to hear from you because it's going to be very much related to what we'll be talking about today. So let us know. My name is Dina Zuckerberg, and I am the Director of Family Programs at MyFaith. MyFaith is the leading nonprofit dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with craniofacial conditions. For nearly 70 years, MyFaith has worked with patients and families to advocate for and provide comprehensive team care so critical to their overall well-being. Every day, we work to deliver support, education, and raise public awareness. Again, we're super excited to welcome tonight's speaker, Kelly Vurinaris. But before we do so, I just want to say a reminder that we will have more Read Alouds and virtual family hour performances our amazing partners are bringing to you throughout July and August. You can RSVP to receive invites to the MyFaith Virtual Summer Series at myfaith.org/summer series. And before we get started, again, I have a question for you. What is your superpower? Let us know. And now I want to introduce to you Kelly Vurinaris.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Kelly Vurinaris, I'm going to introduce you. Kelly Vurinaris is a #1 international best-selling children's book author. She is also a mom like every mom, the mom that wants the best for their children. Kelly created this book to help other children with differences understand that if you add your voice, you are no longer an object to be stared at. You're a person. This book is a story taken from her own life. It is what she has taught her daughter to do when someone is staring at her. Kelly believes in kindness and acceptance for everyone and is committed to changing the world one day at a time. As someone who was born with a facial difference myself and was stared at and excluded as a child, I am really glad that you, Kelly, get to share your book with everyone today. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Before you read your book to everyone, hi, I'm Nee. Can you tell us who inspired you to write this book? Who was your inspiration?
Oh, I'd love to tell you who inspired me. It was actually my daughter. So my daughter is a little girl who was born with a facial difference. She was born with Treacher-Collins syndrome. And she is just a little firecracker who goes out into the world and says hello to everybody. She is this social little butterfly. But what we noticed was when we were out in public at the grocery store or at the park, we noticed that everybody would stare at her because she did have a facial difference. So with that, we kind of introduced to her for her to introduce herself to other people. And from that, we kind of noticed that it changed the direction of how other kids interacted with her. So that inspiration kind of went into a book because we thought, oh my goodness, if this can help her, it can help children all around the world. So the inspiration really did come from her. And I do want to share a story. So the character Chloe, which is the main character in Hi, I'm Me, was based on my daughter, although she thinks it's a little girl that looks like her. And the most amazing thing was when she saw Chloe for the very first time, she smiled and said, "Mommy, that little girl looks like me." And I knew in that moment that it was the most amazing thing because she finally saw herself somewhere else in a book that she could read every night. And so my inspiration did come from my daughter.
Does she like to read it a lot? Like, does she?
She loves to read it. She reads it every night, and she actually, just throughout the day, she'll say little verses from the book. It's so adorable. Yeah, but she does. We read it almost every night.
Nice. And hi, Cynthia from Seattle. We're happy to have you join us. And we have Marcus from Texas saying that's wonderful, a wonderful story. So thank you. There's so many questions I want to ask you, but I feel like I want you to read the book first, and then we can definitely talk more.
Absolutely. Okay, my pleasure. So this is Hi, I'm Me. Hi, I'm Chloe, and I see people staring at me wherever I go. Mom says that's because they don't know me yet. When I'm at the playground and someone is staring at me, Mom says to say, "Hi, I'm Chloe." Then they know me. If they ask a question about my tiny ears, that's okay because they just want to know about me. If I'm at soccer and my teammates stare when I first meet them, I say, "Hi, I'm Chloe." If they ask me a question about my eyes, I say I was born with big blue eyes. Now they know me. When I go to kindergarten, Mom says, "Remember, everyone just wants to know you." So I say, "Hi, I'm Chloe. What's your name?" Then they know me and stop staring. They may ask me about my hearing aid. I tell them it's my superpower that helps me hear better. I may have a question for them too. Do you have a superpower? I'd love to hear about it. Cynthia says, "Miss M's superpowers are empathy and friendliness." Those are amazing superpowers to have. Absolutely. Okay. When I'm in the library and a bigger kid sees me and stares, I sometimes get a little scared. But as Mom always says, they don't know me yet. So I say, "Hi, I'm Chloe." Now they know me and I feel better. Mom says everyone is different in their own special way, and that's what makes us beautiful. It's okay to be me, and no one can be me but me. And I like that. Thank you so much for listening to Hi, I'm Me.
Yes, that was so wonderful. I love the message in that book. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And before I get to the questions, we want to hear from you, the viewers. What do you think? Let us know what you loved most about this book. And also, really what we want to know is, what do you have a superpower? what do you think your superpower is? Let us know in the comments in the chat, and we'd love to hear it. And so I have so many questions to ask. Can you tell us why you chose to talk about kindness and inclusivity in your book, and why you wanted to share the story based on your daughter?
Well, I believe that kindness and inclusivity kind of affects us all. We need to teach it to our kids at such a young age because I feel like they will carry it forward into adulthood and share that with their children and neighbors. And then it'll create sort of a ripple effect that kind of floats throughout the world. But I believe that teaching our children kindness, inclusivity, really just builds a foundation. It's one of the most important tools that we can share because if we have kindness, I believe that it kind of supersedes everything else. If you're kind to one another, they are more inclined to be kind back to you.
I agree. And I really do think we have to teach our kids at a young age about that. And also, I think it's okay to be curious, to want to ask questions, to understand something, and I think that's okay. I think we should be encouraging that. I mean, there's a time and a place to ask those questions, but I think it's okay to ask questions.
Yes, I definitely agree. I believe in questions, actually. I feel like you should encourage your children, all children, to ask questions. That's how they learn. That's how they get their kind of curiosities met. I feel like if with my child who does have a facial difference, if we're walking down the street and someone does see her and they stare, I would love it if the mother or father with that child would stop and ask us questions, because the more we know, the better off we are, and the less sorry, I'm trying to think of the word, the less staring that will happen, the more inclusivity will come with that, if we all take the time and learn about one another.
I agree. Can you just share with us in simple terms what your child was born with, what condition she was born with?
Absolutely.
And then maybe describe in simple terms again what the characteristics of her condition are.
Sure. So my daughter was born with Treacher-Collins syndrome. It's a rare syndrome if it's not passed through genetics. So my husband and I didn't actually know that my daughter was going to be born with Treacher-Collins syndrome, as it wasn't in our DNA. So it was a wonderful surprise. And Treacher-Collins is a cranial facial syndrome. It doesn't have anything to do with cognitive or anything like that. So in simple terms, it means that her cute little cheekbones didn't fully form. So they're not fully formed. So it means that her lower eyelids droop a little bit. Her little ears didn't fully form, so she doesn't have openings to hear. So that's why she wears a hearing aid. Her jawline is set back a little bit because that didn't fully form. It also, my daughter has a milder case of Treacher-Collins, and it can go into a little bit more severity, which she did have too. So she had severe obstructive sleep apnea, which most Treacher-Collins children do because their airways are a little bit smaller and things like that. But she is smart as a whip, I'll tell you, and she just goes and gets them. But Treacher-Collins is just a craniofacial syndrome.
Yeah, and for some people who may have read the book or seen the book movie Wonder, Augie in that has Treacher-Collins as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and so thank you for letting us know that. And we actually have a question from Patricia wanting to know, is it been translated into different languages? It's a great book that shares the message of being approachable and open to sharing.
Yes, thank you so much, Patricia. It is not translated into different languages as of yet, although I have been asked numerous times to do so, which I find amazing. It is something I'm looking into, so we'll see how that progresses. But you're not the first person to ask that question.
So we talked about what her condition is, but I want to know, what does your daughter love to do? What
Oh,
are the things she loves to do?
my daughter is a social butterfly, so she loves to play with her friends. She loves to be out in the public. I actually say she's going to be a Broadway star because she
Mhm.
loves singing and dancing and performing. She is into ballet. She loves dancing of all kinds. She played soccer last year, and you noticed that there was a page referenced in the book of her playing soccer. However, she was on the other side of the field dancing instead of really being involved in soccer. But she does what all children love to do: just play, be at the park, riding her bike, and just enjoying everything that a child should enjoy.
Nice. And what are some of the qualities that you love? Oh, we actually have a question from Marcus. Hi, Kelly. So completely agree with your book and message. We advise similarly with our daughter, Grace, and in general is well received. However, what actions do you recommend for adults that stare?
Oh, good question. Thank you so much, Marcus. For adults that stare, I find that, so my daughter is almost 5, and up from, I guess, newborn till about 3.5, 4, I was the one kind of smiling back at the parents that stare. And I find that as soon as I kind of made contact with them and stared with them, they changed their disposition and smiled back. However, some of the parents that really did stare intently at her or at us, I would simply approach them and I would say, "Do you have a question for us?" And that kind of changed the direction of their staring. They were kind of looked a little bit more relieved that I was approaching them. And then if they had a question, I would simply answer it, or I would kind of actually just get into the whole, my daughter has Treacher Collins, and I would inform them a little bit about the difference. And then it always kind of ended up, "Oh, well, she's so cute anyways. Oh my goodness, thank you so much." So it kind of just shifted the mindset a little bit. But I definitely would approach them if they stared intently. And if a smile didn't work, I would just take it that step further.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's something that I think sometimes as adults we struggle with ourselves. It's not just our children that we struggle with. Is it okay to stare? Is it okay to ask questions? And I think my next question would be, how do you think we as children and as adults can respectfully ask someone? Like, what would you say if you met somebody or saw somebody who was different? Or vice versa, what would you not say to
I
somebody?
I definitely think that it's not staring if you're smiling. So I think if you're approaching someone that does have a visual difference or a facial difference, I think smiling to kind of acknowledge that you see the beauty in that difference is kind of the most important thing. I think that just maybe asking a simple question, like, "Okay, hi, it's nice to meet you," and just kind of slowly engage the question. Just, I don't recommend blurting out just kind of a "what's going on" question. I think just a nice general introduction, and kind of, "Oh, so where were you born, kind of what's your background," things like that, and then slowly ease into it. I think that the less direct approach is always better. But I think differences are beautiful, and I do think that that's what we have to remember. I think that if someone is staring at my daughter, or my daughter sees someone with a difference, I'll say, "Oh yeah, isn't that beautiful?" And kind of go from there. So acknowledging that the beauty is in everybody, even though we don't all look the same. I think we'd all
Right,
everything would be a little bit boring if we looked the same. So I
right.
think it's great. Yeah.
And I love the idea of not only discovering what are the differences, but also learning what are the things that you have in common.
Yes.
And I think, especially for kids, when they learn, oh, I love soccer, oh, so do I. Yeah, and then they start to, and then the differences also are not as, almost all of a sudden not as important to know, or at least
Absolutely.
it becomes more about what you have in common and less about the differences.
Absolutely, Dina. I think you're so right with that. And what we've noticed with my daughter just doing a simple introduction with a child, they're instantly friends. And all of a sudden, she's not this child that has a facial difference. She's a child just like them. She has a voice just like they do. And then all of a sudden, they're often playing together, and she's made a new friend.
Yeah. So how would you, we have a question or a thought, such a well-written book with a powerful message for all. Love the messages in your pillow. I love that
Oh,
pillow in the back.
with
Yeah,
the unicorn? Oh, the beautiful, sorry, the other pillow.
yeah. Which is what makes you different is what makes you beautiful. Love that. So what is something, I'm just curious, what is something you did recently that was kind to help make a positive difference for someone?
What did I do recently that was kind? I think, what did I do recently? Good question, Dina. Let me think. I'm always trying to do kind things. I think, well, actually, what we've done recently, because we're all under lockdown, so to speak, my daughter loves to bake. So we make these famous brownies. So we've made brownies and we delivered them throughout our neighborhood to all of our friends and neighbors, just to, as a little reminder that we're here, and that we could share some things that we're doing while we're stuck at home.
I love that. And you probably brought a lot of smiles to a lot of people, which is so amazing. I love that.
Thank
And
you.
I wish I lived close. I do love brownies. I love
Oh, I'll have to make you some someday.
a little far, a little far. But maybe one day when I
Maybe
need,
one day.
I'll do a road trip up. How do you think reading this book builds confidence in children?
I think this book builds confidence in children because you're adding a voice. You're creating, just by the simple introduction, you're creating this kind of unknown confidence. A lot of our children don't understand what confidence is, but you're creating a confidence, so a voice to be heard. If a child is kind of staring at you and you speak first and introduce yourself first, then they're like, oh, this is a person, before they form any sort of other opinion. So I believe that it builds confidence.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Um, I guess, how does this book, you think, help all children?
I think it helps all children because all children have a difference, whether it be a facial difference or a difference we can't see. I think that everybody can learn from this, and just by a simple introduction, it does build confidence. And actually, the confidence can be your superpower.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody who's listening or watching has any superpowers they want to share. Trying to think what I think my superpower is. I think my superpower is that I can. Well, I think in some ways my superpower is that I wear a hearing aid and I can. This is kind of, I'm not sure this is superpower, but I can turn it off whenever I want and just be in total silence. So sometimes I could be on an airplane when there's a little baby crying or there's too much noise, and I can turn it off and then I can not hear anything. So that's a nice, I think, superpower that makes me very unique.
I agree.
Does your daughter wear a hearing aid?
She does wear a hearing aid, and lately she's been enjoying not wearing it in the morning into the afternoon. So I think she agrees with your superpower because she's enjoying the silence too.
There's something nice about that. I remember when I was little, I probably shouldn't say this, and I would be somebody would be like a teacher yelling at somebody, I would just turn off my hearing aid.
Yeah, so smart.
So, and then, what do you think are the 3 things everyone should remember when meeting someone who's not like them?
The 3 things everyone should remember is that not everyone is the same. So remember that they probably have a story, they have a journey that they've been on as well. To always be kind to one another because we don't know their story, and to just honestly include everyone because everyone brings something different to the dynamic. And just if we teach our kids that, then I feel like they'll grow up making this world a better place.
I love that. One of the things that I always love to say is, I think, be an upstander don't be just a bystander. Stand up for somebody, because I know for me, I wish I had more upstanders in my life as a child, and I think sometimes it's not the most comfortable to stand up for somebody because you might be the one who then gets picked on too. But I think it's so important, and it's so much more rewarding if you stand up for somebody because you want to be their friend. And it can be as simple as sitting with them in the lunchroom, and even sometimes a simple hello and a smile, just like you said, and just introducing yourself can make a huge difference for somebody.
Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in that. Okay, so if anybody has any last minute questions or comments, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And Patricia says, stand up and stand out. That's a great line. I couldn't agree more with that. And I have a feeling your daughter is going to do just that. That. From what you've said about your daughter, I'm sure she's going to be the one who's going to stand up and stand out.
I do believe. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess my last question is, anything else you would like to add before we wrap up? What is the one key thing you would say to everybody that they can take away from today?
I think the one key thing that everyone should take away is just introduce yourself. I think even as adults, we have a fear of the unknown, and we don't know what other people are thinking about us. We don't know how people are perceiving us. But if you just introduce yourself, being a child or an adult, you just break down barriers and you can create friendships that you may not know would have happened. So I feel like my final words are just introduce yourself.
Absolutely. And a smile, right?
And a smile, yeah.
A smile, and it can go a long way in and you can make somebody else's day. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really, I love your messages. It's like I said, someone who grew up being stared at and sometimes people excluding me. It really meant a lot to hear what your message is. And I only wish that there were more books like this when I was growing up and more messages like this, because I think it's such an important one. And actually somebody said, Christine Moore says, beautiful message for our children. And I couldn't agree more.
Well, Dina, I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for inviting me. I am honored to have read my book for you and everyone else. And I just can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to remind everybody that if you don't already own it, you can find her book at a local bookstore, which you can request, or you can buy it on Amazon.com. Is there anywhere else they can purchase it, or just?
It's on barnesandnoble.com, Amazon.com, or .ca if you're in Canada. Actually, you can purchase it on Amazon all around the world. And I'd be happy if you visit my website at www.confidentlychloe.com. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram at confidentlychloe.com as well, or Confidently Chloe.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to say that we hope to see you all at our next event on Tuesday, August 4th with Sarah Kravchuk, who's going to read Love to Be Me. And don't forget to RSVP at myfaith.org/summer series to get email reminders about all of this summer's exciting events. So thank you again, Kelly, for joining us today. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get to meet you and your daughter in person.
That would be wonderful. I would love that. Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.